Good evening, everyone. Welcome into Vol Society Live on this Tuesday night. My name is David Morrison from the Vol Society, here to welcome you to, as I mentioned, another episode of Vol Society Live. This is your show. This is your chance to voice your comments, your concerns, your questions for an hour each and every Tuesday night. This is your show. This is not my show. It's not Brad's show. Although we're just kind of directing traffic, this is your chance to be heard on the chat room. Phil saying, hi, David and Brad. Hello there, Phil. Like I said, just do like Phil did, where you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. This is your chance to be heard. Talk about the game. Talk about, well, what are your overall thoughts of the Tennessee program? Where are you watching us tonight? So, like I said, this is part of your show here tonight. Give our first shout out of the night to Amanda, leaving us a like on the Facebook page. Shout out to Amanda for doing that. Yeah. So, and now our founder Brad in the chat room saying, go Vols. Go Vols indeed, even with everything going on. Toby saying, play Nico. We already getting the Nico, fans in here. That's all good too. So, yeah, we're going to talk about last Saturday. As Phil says, I am very upset. Yeah. Hopefully you listened to our podcast. We had a lot of concerns about that too. But, yeah, might as well kind of go ahead and get the ball rolling here, if you will. Tennessee coming off a loss last Saturday down in Tuscaloosa, 34-20, the final score. I'll kind of said what we said on the podcast. Both Brad and I, we were the only two. We missed D's this past week. He had a prior commitment, but yeah, a whole lot going on. But love the first half, but as Brad said in the chat, awful second half. I love what we did in the first half, but awful in the second half. Toby said cheated refs. Yeah, they were a big part, but I'll just say this. I'll say this right out of the gate. We put ourselves in a lot of bad situations, and I think we got out coach. Although I do agree with Toby, there was some calls that was very questionable, very upsetting, and yeah, just very very controversial. Ashley saying hi, everyone. Well, hi back to Ashley. And Charles says Milton was the best offense we had. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you're right. I mean, Joe Milton did not really have a bad game. I mean, 28 for 41, 271 yards, 2 touchdowns, and like I said, uh, as Ashley said, that ain't on Joe, and I agree. Joe did what he could. Joe did what he could. It's just I think we just got out coach. We didn't execute in the red zone. Our red zone struggles are really showing, especially in the last couple of games, and definitely in this game as Alabama came back and just beat our brains in. Let's just be honest. And that wasn't on Joe. I just think we were just out coached. Some of the penalties, questionable penalties, was a part of it. But, we put ourselves in bad situations, very similar to Florida. Just took our foot off the gas in the second half, and you can't do that with Alabama. And, we talked about that on the podcast. Hopefully you listened to it today. Like I said, Ashley said that. Joe, I read that. Toby says Kentucky is going to be hard to beat. It's going to be a very interesting game. I'll say that. It's like I said, Kentucky's coming off their bye week. They're going to be fresh as a daisy. They get us at home. Seems like when we go to Lexington, we get in these scrappy games with them. No pun intended. And it's just it's going to be a very interesting game. Although I do like our chances against Devin Leary. It seems like there was a lot of hype coming in for Devin Leary at Kentucky. They said he's better than Will Levis and all that, and probably still is. But, his completion percentage is 54%, and Joe Milton's is 62%. So I do feel confident as far as if we can find a way to get to Devin Leary, force him some bad passes, I think we're good. We also got to shut down Ray Davis, too. I think if we can shut these two guys down, I think we can be in for a pretty good night. Ashley says Saban is one of the best at halftime adjustments. We failed on that, always do. You're right. You're right, Ashley. I mean, Nick Saban has been around for a very, very, very long time. He has been in these type of games before. He's, what, 7-time national champion. I mean, this is not his first rodeo, and it's just very shocking to see how we just didn't make the adjustments. And I love what we did in the first half with that option run with Joe Milton, and Milton was hitting his passes. Squirrel White was playing lights out. I mean, I was, right next to Joe Milton, Squirrel White probably was also the best on offense that night. It was just, it's just so mind-boggling how we just went away from that, and Alabama just gobbled us up. Uh, Charles says no calls hurt us worse. Yeah, that holding call and then the fair catch call was just terrible. Toby says I'm going to the UConn Tennessee game next weekend. Awesome. Should be an easy day. Nice little noon game. Hopefully good weather up there and enjoy yourself. Uh, Ashley says, why didn't we do that in the second half? Curious at your opinion. That's and that's a great question, Ashley. I've been kind of rattling that in my brain. I just think, to me, and it's probably not the best answer, but I just think we just felt comfortable with that halftime lead, thinking, okay, we got a good offense going. We're mailing some points. We can stop Jalen Milroe. I think we can kind of just go ahead and coast it. And like I said, that's the worst thing you could do is just coast it. It's just that's what just really boggled me. And even the 4th and 1 call on our own 30, trying to go for it, and we were lined up in shotgun, and it's just nothing made sense as far as our adjustments go, and we just let Alabama come in there and just dominate that second half. We did not go after Jalen Milroe again. Milroe just took off like he did against Texas A&M. I just think they felt very comfortable with that halftime lead and thought Alabama was just going to roll over and play dead, if you will. And it's just mind-boggling how we just did not adjust to that. That's just my thinking. We were very content with our halftime lead. Toby says Georgia and Florida, who wins that game this Saturday down in Jacksonville? I think Georgia gets the win. It's going to be interesting to see how they do without Bowers, although I do like Ladd McConkey, the other tight end, and I just think Kirby's kind of got Florida's number right now. I mean, it's been a blowout. I think the last 2-3 years that they played. I think it'll be interesting in the first half, Toby, but I think Georgia's just got the talent and they'll just kind of pull away at the end. And then going back to Ashley, we ran the same play over and over, expecting different results. And you're right. We we just kept going back to the well once again, and we just felt content and thinking, okay, we'll just kind of run our old plays, and just Alabama gobbled us up, and Jalen Wright could not get going the whole game. Dylan Sampson popped off for a good 2 or 3 yards, and or 2 or 3 runs. That's okay. Ashley says, sorry, I'm annoying. That's okay. I love your questions. I mean, this that keeps the chat going here. Like I said, this is your show, Ashley. This is not me. Um, but yeah, it's just I just think they were just very content, and I don't blame you for being annoying and frustrated. I'm the exact same way. Uh, uh, and then Brad says, not sure Joey Hazel is the guy, and that's going to be a big question kind of going forward. I mean, Alex Golish, man, I'm glad that he's doing well at South Florida and rightly deserved. We have the best rush in the SEC. Bet you have our number. Yeah. Let me go pull this up here. So right now, after the Alabama game, as far as rushing goes, right now we're averaging 217 yards per game, 5 yards per carry, over 1,500 yards rushing. So that still has to be right near the top. I mean, last year it was a very pass friendly offense, although we still say it's a balanced offense, even though it's up tempo. But, I just, we just completely changed the narrative, and a lot of it has to do with Milton uh, not being the quarterback we thought, but it's just a lot of just a lot of changes for 1 year. We'll go back to Toby. Toby's got a couple of comments. He says Michigan look really good. Yeah, Michigan's right there at the top there, but playing consistent. And after kind of seeing how Ohio State and Penn State played Saturday, I think Michigan's probably a lock to win the Big Ten. And Toby says, I'm a Tennessee fan, but Michigan is going to win it all. And we'll see. Anything can happen. It's been a crazy season. That wouldn't shock me, but we'll see what these distractions are doing now with Michigan. Let's see here. Phil agreeing with Brad about saying not sure Joey Hazel is the guy. Ashley says, well, better it was 300 or maybe not. Yeah, true that. Yeah, I mean it's definitely a different team from last year. But for the most part, it's just it's just a lot of changes, and just this loss just kind of really stings. I mean, we Brad and I we vented for 45 minutes on the podcast about it, but like I said, I will say this. I will say this. After that Florida loss, we had a couple of nice wins in a row that dominated South Carolina, beat Texas A&M, and yes, those are home games. So here's our chance to uh, definitely our chance to rebound and still salvage some sort of a season. Although we got a really tough November. This November schedule, which normally is easy for us, has gotten a lot tougher. I mean, yeah, we still play Kentucky in October, but then after that, you get a nice game with UConn. Then you jump into Missouri and Georgia, back-to-back road games. I'm sorry, not back-to-back top 25 games. Missouri's on the road, Georgia's at home, and then you welcome in Vanderbilt to end the season. So, it's just going to be it's going to be a tough end to the season. But I think Josh Heupel's the guy, and I think this team can get fired up and play these big games compared to previous coaches. Toby says, if we can beat Georgia, can we still make the SEC championship game? I think you need some help along the way. You're going to have Florida lose a game. Thankfully with Bama in the West, it doesn't hurt the East. Now that will change next year when division plays go away. But you're going to have to. Florida's going to have to lose one more, and then which obviously they play Georgia. But yeah, it could still possibly happen. But it's going to be a tall task. Let's see. Actually, say no. Okay. Brad says should have beat Florida and Bama. Period. Those games are going to be tough. Continuing on. So, yeah. I mean, looking back, hindsight 2020, it should be. Ashley says sorry. No apologies. No apologies. Ashley said sorry. That's okay. No. Continue on. Toby says LSU going to beat Alabama. That's not the first I've heard that, Toby. It's going to be an interesting game to say the least. But any other comments, questions here? Like I said, I figured, like I said, being away for the most part. But kind of looking at I say go ahead. We'll go ahead and kind of look at the Kentucky next week. Just I feel like we can rebound for next week. I just don't think this Tennessee team is going to just mail it in for the rest of the year. I think this team can go down there. It's going to be a battle, but I think this team's got enough to pull out the win. Ashley says Kentucky hate week. Yes, and indeed it is. I think we're going to hold back on the jokes this week. The last two times we've done jokes and stuff, we kind of looked at bad on our end on Law Society, although we have fun over here too. But like I said, I just think we can. I think we can go up there and put up a good showing for the most part, even though being on the road and everything. But And I mean, Mark Stoops, I looked at this stat during the podcast last night and said it. You know, Mark Stoops is 2-8 against Tennessee. So we've had his number the last several years. Uh, you know, we, Mark Stoops is just trying to find a way to get a win. And yeah, here's a good opportunity. We're coming off a loss. They're coming off a bye week. Uh, I think this is a chance to, like I said, continue to put agony on him for the most part. Phil says, "Hey, we own Kentucky. We're going to skin some Wildcat." Yeah, and that's true. I mean, we've dominated this series. I mean, going since Mark, like I said, since Mark Stoops has been there, I think we lost in 2017. Yeah, because we went winless in the SEC that year, and then the COVID year they beat us at home, and then we got a vacant. They took away a win from us, but that's vacant wins are silly in college football. Um, but vacant wins or vacant losses, I should say. Vacant games. I mean, the games happen, but still, like I said, Mark has not fared well with us. Toby says, "Will Nico play next week versus UConn?" I really hope so because honestly, this is his last shot of you know doing something for this year. I mean, it's not Nico's fault. We just been in some awful situations where we just had no opportunity to play Nico. But Nico, if this is really his last shot for the year to get some snaps underneath him, unless something crazy happens Saturday in Kentucky, and then we have to make the switch. But I just think Heupel and the guys are going to ride with Milton to the end of the year. But they have to take a big lead against UConn, Toby. But they have to take a big lead on UConn and then feel comfortable to put him in there. But this is really his last shot because I don't see him coming in like Georgia or Missouri or even Saturday pending injury. So and it's frustrating too because you've missed these golden opportunities, and you're going to have a very young quarterback room coming into next year with Nico. Gaston Moore, I will be back, but I'm not saying he's transferring. So, but there's an option of players could be transferring. You got Jake Merglinker, a true freshman coming in. So it's going to be a very young quarterback room next year, and you're going to have either a redshirt freshman or a true sophomore leading the way that's had very little snaps. So, um, we'll see. And even like Navy Schuler, Navy has went out on record saying that he's going to be, after he's done at Tennessee, he wants to be a grad assistant and become a coach, which is fantastic for him. At least he knows what he wants to do next in his football career or football lifestyle, if you will. So, but we still got a lot of football to go before we dive into 24. But definitely something to keep an eye out on. But what are your? We'll go ahead and do score predictions right now. So go ahead, type your score predictions for Saturday. So Brad said that Tennessee's going to win 38-24 on Saturday. I said 34-28 Tennessee. I just, like I said, I think Tennessee rebounds nicely, goes up there, gets a win. It's going to be, I think, probably a rough first half. I don't want to say rough first half, but definitely a close first half. But I think Tennessee has the talent to find a way to shut down Devin Leary. If we can find a way to shut down Ray Davis and get the offense clicking like we saw in the first half against Alabama and play a full 60 minutes, carry the fight to our opponents for 60 minutes and keep it there, then we'll be fine. Toby says 48-10 Tennessee on Saturday for his score prediction. But yeah, definitely going to be definitely a must-win game for us coming up on Saturday. Looking at some of the players to watch out for Kentucky. Obviously, we mentioned Devin Leary on the year. Devin Leary, 1,300 yards passing, 14 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He's been sacked 11 times this year for negative 86 yards. Phil going Tennessee 44, Kentucky 22 on Saturday. So a nice 20-point win on the road. He'll be going big time with his prediction. Mentioned Ray Davis several times, obviously. 781 yards rushing, averages 7 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns. Played at Vanderbilt last year, so Tennessee fans are familiar with him somewhat. He went for 280 against Florida. So that's definitely the biggest threat, and I think that's who they're going to rely on in the offense for the most part. And then their leading receiver is Tavion Robinson. 23 carries, or 23 carries, 23 catches for 338 yards, 3 touchdowns, averages 14 yards per catch. Key, their second leading receiver, 16 yards per catch. So, our secondary is going to have to be ready, but I think our secondary really has been improving significantly. We're going to have to see what happens with Kamal Haddon. He went out against Alabama, did come back in the third quarter. We'll see how his shoulder holds up. Hopefully it was just a stinger and he's ready to go. Gabe Jeudy-Lally is finally coming into his own at the other corner position. Of course, he's been filling in for Danico Slaughter, who's been hurt most of the year. So that secondary is going to have to be ready. Like I said, I think they're improving. Just going to have to improve our tackling, improve our coverage, not to get into silly penalties. Good night, Toby. Thank you for tuning in. Says have a good night. Go Vols. Thank you for tuning in, buddy. I just think that's what's going to have to what's going to come down to is just finding a way to shut down Kentucky's offense, and I think we'll be fine. I like our rushing defense, and doing well for the most part. Any other questions or comments? Score predictions coming up on Saturday. Of course, you can talk about the Alabama game, talk about anything. Are you going to the game, David? You and Brad? For Kentucky, not this week. Right now, I don't know what game me and Brad's going to try to wrangle up next. And D's, we did go to the South Carolina game. Right now, I'm not planning on even going to the UConn game as of now. I've had another commitment come up, and then Georgia's going to be a tough game to get to, and then Vanderbilt. We'll just see what happens around Thanksgiving weekend. But right now, not yet. But never say never. Go back to the shout outs here. Shout out to my dad. Shout out to Charles and Toby leaving us a like on the Facebook. And Ashley leaving us a love on there. So fantastic. But any others? All quiet in here tonight. I think we've said a whole lot. Looking at continuing on, looking at Kentucky. So far this year, they're 5-2 on the year. They're as far as their wins go, like I said, so far this is a recap of their season. They beat Ball State first week of the year 44-14. They beat Eastern Kentucky 28-17, which I guess kind of caused some concerns for Kentucky fans. Barely beating an in-state opponent. They blew out Akron 35-3. Went on the road and beat Vanderbilt 45-28, and then had that dominating win against Florida, which kills us, to be honest with you, 33-14. And then they're on a 2-game losing streak as of right now. A loss to Georgia, 51-13 on the road, and then losing at home 2 weeks ago to Missouri, 38-21. So that's where Kentucky stands at this point, 5-2 on the year. And obviously for Tennessee, we're 5-2. I think everybody kind of knows our scores and where we're at this point. Big game coming up. Tennessee is a 3.5-point favorite coming up on Saturday. As far as the uh, matchup projector goes from ESPN, Tennessee has a 70% chance of winning this game on Saturday compared to Kentucky's 29%. Do you know anything about UConn? A little bit. Last year they had a pretty good, really good first season for their standards with Jim Mora Jr., former NFL head coach from the Falcons. Now he's at UConn. Uh, they had a great first year with him, but now this year they're 1-5 on the year. They have really reverted back to where they were before Jim Mora got there, so they're struggling big time. I expect Tennessee to take care of business in that game. Uh, let's see here. Yeah, they're 1-5 right now. Their only win on the year was to Rice on the October the 7th. They won 38-31. They lost to Alice Golish's South Florida Bulls last week 24-21. I mean, they've been dominant quite a bit this year. Lost to Georgia State 35-14. Got blown out by Duke, which you kind of expect, 41-7. Lost 1 point to Utah State at home. Lost a field goal to South Florida. So definitely, as far as UConn goes, I'm not expecting much from that game. Like I said, kind of a final tune-up game before we get to Missouri and Georgia coming up. And that's also homecoming too, so you want to get that win there. But definitely surprising that honestly I thought UConn would be a little bit better, especially kind of they went to a bowl game last year with Jim Moore as their head coach the first year. Just not happening this year for some reason. Any other questions or comments? All right. If not, I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and announce this week, kind of our schedule for the week. Tailgate Thursday coming up on Thursday with myself previewing the college football games throughout the week. Also tomorrow on the Facebook page around 5:30, a little surprise for y'all involving the Tennessee basketball team. That's right. So tomorrow, I may do a little basketball preview show that I may have taped up or recorded, and I'll be presenting it to you on tomorrow afternoon around like 5:30. Little Tennessee basketball preview, and then the Lady Vols will be coming up later on at the end of the week, a preview of them. Obviously, the game on Saturday, 7 o'clock Eastern Time kickoff on ESPN with Kentucky. Be Mike Monaco, Jesse Palmer, Katie George on the call Saturday night. And then we will have Josh Heupel's press conference that next Monday, previewing the UConn game, homecoming week. A lot of fun for that. And then the podcast coming up. Hopefully, Dees will be back. As far as Vol Society goes next week, next Tuesday is Halloween night. Obviously, a busy night for a lot of people. So we're going to move Vol Society for 1 week. Next Wednesday night will be Vol Society live at 8 p.m. just due to Halloween being on a Tuesday night. And I figure maybe y'all want to go trick or treat and go TP some houses and take some candy instead of talking Tennessee football. So next week, Vol Society will be on Wednesday night, November the 1st at 8 o'clock. This just for 1 week, just due to Halloween following next week. So definitely look out for that. But anyways, I think that's kind of it. Y'all being quiet, but that's fine. So Vol Society Live will be next Wednesday night at 8 o'clock for 1 week. We'll look forward to playing Kentucky on Saturday. Good night, Vol Society. Have a great rest of the night. Enjoy your show. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate that, buddy. And thank you for all tuning in to Vol Society Live tonight. Hopefully we answered some questions and cleared some air out. enjoy the week. Be kind to each other, to everyone. And like I said, we'll talk to y'all next Wednesday night for Vol Society Live at 8 o'clock for 1 week only. And then we'll be back on the regular Tuesday night schedule. Enjoy the game on Saturday. Hopefully Tennessee get back on the winning ways and get a win. We'll talk to y'all next Tuesday night for Vol Society Live. Have a great night and go Vols.